Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest, I remember this guy from sitting up in the blue seats, looking down. We were just talking, Tom and I, about the days of the Rangers, and he spent quite a few years with the Rangers and the Kings and other teams and his NHL journey. But we're not here to talk about that. I was just saying to him, we had a 10-minute conversation. I could talk to him all day about.
Sure, we'll do another show.
Yeah, we'll do another one and bring you back. That's true. It was awesome to, talk about what it was like going at it with Marty McSorley, which I wouldn't want to do, and some of the other guys. Talking about Clark Gillies and Nick Fatiou and Terry O'Reilly. Remember those? I mean, Dave Schultz.
Yeah,
when hockey had some tough
dudes.
Yeah, that was
a game.
That was fun.
I love the game now. It's still a good game. It's a whole different game now.
Oh, it is. It sure is. And Tom is involved in a lot of things. He's doing radio shows. He's doing a ton of motivational speakers, but motivational speaking. But he was also on Survivor, season 39, Islands of Idols. And I want to have a conversation today about that. But I'm realizing right now I've already made a note that we need to get him back on and have the conversation about sports and all that stuff. His season was filmed in Fiji in April, I believe, 2019, and it first premiered September of 2019 on CBS. He was voted off on day 14, I think because he was a threat. I think because they got to get rid of him. Let's take him out now, right?
Well, I think the big thing was, and Janet talked about it, was that I was Mr. Loyal out there, and my loyalty was unfortunately to 4 other people that got switched, showed the other tribe with the tribe swap. So
that's right.
I think that did hurt me. In fact, they didn't show it all, but at the tribal council when I got voted out, they all said what a fantastic guy I was and everything. I'm sitting there thinking, oh, it's me. They know all this nice stuff. I really thought it was going to be charisma, but it didn't work out.
The voice you're hearing is of Tom Laidlaw. Welcome to the podcast, Tom. Appreciate you being here.
Great to be here.
So let's talk about that. What inspired you? You got a lot of things going on, right? Plate's full. And then you say, you know what? I think I'm going to go spend 30 days in Fiji. I mean, what the heck? Too many pucks or what, Tom?
It's funny when you put it that way, right? It's something different. I've really, probably the last 5 years, I've really developed this business, I guess, not much of a business, more my passion, called True Grit Life. So we've got a book coming out, do a lot of podcasts, a lot of, like you mentioned, motivational speaking. And I'm 62 now. I was 61. I turned 61 actually out there on the island. So I was one of the oldest players they'd had like in the last 10 years. And Janet, who was on the show, was in the same category. And I really speak to people a lot about, like living life all out. Like you shouldn't be in my mind, because you're getting older, you shouldn't be saying, okay, I need to slow down or whatever. I think in fact, you should get better. In all areas, mentally, physically, there's so many different things you can do that I've learned now over the years, about fasting and your diet and your exercise and everything. And as I wanted to be able to say to people, not just talk about it, but be able to, say this is another kind of notch in my belt of something I've done that is kind of unusual. And I just, I've been so fortunate in my life that I've, to play in the National Hockey League, to be an agent, to be an entrepreneur, now this True Grit Life stuff. So being on Survivor was really, it was one of those things like, I remember, obviously, you were going on the show, but when they first drop you off on the island, you go, wow, this is really cool. I'm playing Survivor. I'm going to be sleeping in the dirt and eating rice and coconuts. And it was a blast. So it was a great experience. There's so many things that go into it. Like the psychological part, you're dealing with younger people. They're all playing the mind games, who do you trust? Who do you not trust? So you're constantly playing the game and like preparing for that. I worked with a trainer about, controlling my breathing to control my, emotions and all that kinds of stuff. So it was great to prepare for it and learn some new things, but it was just, it was just one of those cool things to do, really.
So let's take a few questions that were sent in. Once you committed to do this, we sent out a bunch of stuff through social media and people just continued to send back even over the weeks before you came on the air. So Katie in St. Petersburg, Florida, I believe that is, she asked, good segue from your question. She asked if there's anything you can do to prepare for Survivor and how did you do that?
Well, the big thing that physically, the physical part, there's a lot of people out there that weren't that physical and, they're fine. Like Sandra, who has won a couple of times and a great player, she just sit out all the challenges, she wasn't physical at all, and she still won. So I think it helps you. There are a lot of challenges and just the demands on you physically while you're there. I think it helps to be in shape, but really it's the mental part for me. And I'd worked with a trainer, a good friend of mine, and he was really good on, first of all, and it's interesting, I played in the NHL for 11 years and really didn't know this about myself, but he would have me go memorize a poem, and I would be able to recite the poem. And then he would have me either go into a gym or have something to get my mind, like stress me out or whatever, get my heart rate going. And then he'd have me recite the poem again. And inevitably, I could not recite the poem the same way I did before the exercise, before getting my heart rate going. So first of all, just to recognize that was what was going on. So how your body affects your mind.
That's interesting.
Right? And then you had to figure out, okay, well, what's Tom Laidlaw's way of correcting that? How do you get your mind right again? And it was really me just recognizing I had to literally slow down my breathing, like by taking deep breaths and everything. So those kinds of things, and what that does for you too. First of all, it helps you, or it slows down your breathing, and now you're kind of compose your thoughts more. But it also gives you a certain level of confidence, because now you're prepared for that. It's kind of like you're giving yourself a license to be confident when you're out there at the show. That's like one of the things you don't have to worry about. So that really helped a lot. But at the end of the day, in Survivor, the game really has evolved into, everybody's trying to figure out a way to vote somebody else off, as long as it's not them, right? That's part of what the game's evolved to. So, and I was the same way. So, but it was good. I'm glad. I put on some weight too. I'm pretty strict with my diet. I tried to pack on about 10 pounds before I went out there, thinking, if I lasted 39 days, I'm going to lose weight. And I actually lost 27 pounds when I was out there too. So.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Scott from Charlotte, North Carolina wants to know, what was the best and worst parts of being in Fiji?
Best parts of Fiji, honestly, like playing the game. Playing the game was a blast. Like the whole, right off the bat, Ronnie and Aaron wanted to get Elaine off, and Elaine and I had formed an alliance. And I really, a lot of it was I didn't want Ronnie and Aaron teaming together. Like they were really becoming a power couple themselves.
Right.
And I wanted to show Elaine that I was really going to battle for her. First of all, it was a good alliance. She was a popular person, but it's kind of my connection to all the women. I'm that 60-year-old guy, and he's all young women there. So kind of, if I aligned with Elaine, then I felt like I was kind of aligned with the women there too. So, so that was the best part, was playing the game. Well, I tell a funny story, but I'll be a little bit careful. Probably I don't know if it's the worst part or not, but a lot of things you think you should have thought about, but you didn't really think through all the ways. Like bathroom, there's no bathroom there. There's no toilet paper. So they teach you to do the aqua bomb of the ocean. So it's kind of funny when you first get out there, you don't think through the whole process. So you do your business out there. Now everything's floating on top of the water, and it's the ocean. The waves are coming in and everything, So the waves, it's like the stuff is chasing you around in the water. It was I don't know if it was the worst. It just funny, like the picture. If I was watching somebody else do it, like I was doing it, and I was kind of laughing at myself. So it was pretty entertaining.
Aaron from Houston, Texas wants to know, was it different? What was different about Survivor from watching it at home and then taking place? Any parts of it?
It's nobody's fault, really. I want to be careful when I say this. It's not like CBS or Survivor is trying to paint an inaccurate picture of what goes on out there. But they logically, especially on our show with Sandra and Rob out there, there's more time taken up with them. They really don't show all the things that go into all the decisions that are made. So like the first one, when we blindsided Ronnie, that was really myself and Elaine, to a lesser extent, that put that blind side together. They didn't really show that kind of stuff. So it's, that's the part, like when you watch it, you go, well, like for instance, when Karishma cut her finger, they made it look like we were all sitting around there. We weren't. Half the crew wasn't even at the camp. They were doing something else. So things like that. Again, it's nobody's fault. It's just they have to condense hundreds of hours into a show, so they don't show everything that's there. So that's the part that I think when I watch it now, I realize, okay, was that really what else had gone on there that they're maybe not showing?
Yeah, that's interesting. Craig from Queens, New York. He wants to know, did you have a favorite castaway? I said contestant, or least favorite castaway in your season?
Well, Elaine and I have stayed pretty good friends, so I think Elaine probably would be. I'm not, unfortunately for us, Dan's situation with touching the girls and all that stuff, it tainted the show. I still to this day have never even spoken to Dan. He was on the other tribe. And I got voted off before the merge, so I never dealt with him. It was interesting because Molly and I, because we didn't make it to the merge, our group had to go to Australia for 3 weeks. They wouldn't let us go home. So I got to be friends with Molly and Jason and all those people. And it's funny, it's obviously we didn't know about all that stuff with Dan until the show actually happened. And then when we went to the finale, Molly pulled me aside. She said, Tom, you wouldn't have let that happen, would you? Like, referring to Dan and the stuff. And I said, I was actually kind of cool. I was happy she said that because, that stuff, I grew up, I think most men are like this too. You you don't abuse women. It's just in any way, shape, or form, you don't do it. And
Right.
so I would have. Obviously, he's not. I just don't respect anybody that does that kind of stuff. So
I think you're in the majority there. What's it like playing with an icon like Boston Rob? I mean, you got to give the guy props. He's strategically, he's got it done. And does he come with ego? Does he think he's, what? Tell us a little bit about him.
yeah, I spent some time talking to him in LA at the finale, and he's a huge hockey fan. So
Oh, really?
that's the first time we had met too, because I didn't get.
Oh, that's right. You were in the other tribe. That's right. Yep.
So we talked for a while.
I keep thinking you guys like are together prior. There's no together.
Yeah.
You're dumped on the island. That's right.
Yeah. Well, and even the 5 days at Ponderosa before the show, we're all together, but they weren't there. But we can't talk to each other there too.
Yeah,
So
that's right. That's right.
But he was great. He seems like he and his wife, like they had their kids there. They're real family people. I think, in fact, I just in the limited time I talked to him, it seems like he kind of puts on more of an act when he gets into that survivor mode of being that. I think that's part of his shtick, kind of, right? That he's got a like overconfident guy because he's done all this stuff and he's written a book. I think that's kind of his brand, the survivor brand. But he was a great guy. He was fun to talk to and kind of laid back, really, when we talked to him. Sandra was just interesting though. Like she got on the bus with us after, and she's got more of a personality.
Oh,
she was very lively, yeah.
Tell us about, and you mentioned this, and I know the listeners and viewers are always interested in kind of the behind the scenes stuff. But we've heard so many times when you guys are, whether you're at Ponderosa, can't talk to each other, people on flight over, people are sitting with you, you're being babysat the whole time, you're walking to tribal council and there's people in front and back, and sometimes you're blindfolded, you're in trucks with windows that are black or boats with, holy cow. I mean, and then there's people out there that will go all over the internet and say how fake the show is. Oh, they get food all the time and there's bathrooms and give me a break. I mean,
it is a real deal. It starts off when you go for casting long before the show. We went in, was it the September before? Yeah, we went for casting in Los Angeles. So there's 20 potential players in the hotel and we're there for 5 days. You get in there, I think 5 days you're there. And you cannot talk to anybody, right? They've got people guarding you and watching you. And you sit at the restaurant where everybody's at different tables spread out in the restaurant and the hotel. And after a while, it gets to the point where we're starting to laugh at each other because we can't talk. So it's the real deal. They even once the show's going, you're right. We go to tribal council or when we go to a challenge and there's no cameras there, they have somebody sitting there making sure you're not talking to each other. So they want all interaction, all planning and strategy, always in front of the camera. In fact, I think there's sometimes where somebody walk out maybe together into the forest, and if you start talking, they'll say you can hold on a second until they wait to get a camera there. So it's it's the real deal. I promise. Listen, it doesn't matter to me now. I tell everybody, but as far as food, I mean, there's the challenges. If you win some food, then that's there. It's a big deal. I went with the goal of winning every challenge. We only won one when I was out there. So and the one we won was the spice rack. And it was amazing how the spice rack became such a big deal because we were eating just plain coconut all the time and rice. So now spicing up the food was this huge thing. Like I remember just when he announced what the prize was, we all got excited about it. And he was like kind of shocked that we were so surprised, but I was kind of shocked too, thinking back about it. It's a spice rack, right? I mean, if you think about spices now, what's the big deal? But it was fun. It was fun. No, it's the real deal. Like I said, the bathroom, nothing. There was, you're on your own. You don't ever feel like you're ever like in danger or anything like that, but it's really the middle of the night and it's dark. Like if you haven't gone to bed, like we ultimately, we didn't realize that with the bamboo, we should have flattened it down. So we were trying to sleep on just the round bamboo. So ultimately I could sleep best. So we went and slept in the dirt. And actually it got to the point where you're looking forward to going to bed in the dirt, but you had to make sure you got there before it got dark because it was so dark you just couldn't see it all. So there's nothing. There's no help at all.
Christina from Pittsburgh, PA. I'm sure you remember the old igloo.
Yeah.
Tell us what Jeff Probst is like, if you know on and off camera, she asked in parentheses. So about Jeff.
Great guy. Like he's, Survivor is his baby, right? And he takes a lot of pride in Survivor. He knows what he wants. He wants, tribal council. He'll tell you, he says, guys, you got to give me something, And if you're playing the game hard, like he really so you go to casting. Like I knew we had a guy kind of coach us a little bit about how we should handle the meetings. I'd been around, I'd done a lot of interviews, and everything. So when I walked into the meeting room, Jeff was there. He's not a big guy. He's sitting on the couch, and I stood up over top of him on the couch and said, "Proby, you're mine now. No, and I really think, so we got going pretty good, going back and forth. It ended up just being more of a conversation between the two of us. There's a bunch of other people there. And we're talking about, did you lose your teeth? And I said, oh, yeah, I've lost lots of teeth. And he had these two women from CBS there at the meeting. And he turns them right in front of me and everything, too. He says, so what do you guys think of him? And the woman goes, I like him. He's confident but not cocky. And the other woman goes, oh, no, he's totally cocky. And Jeff was loving it. Like, that's what he wants, right? Yeah. But I'll tell you the same thing, though. If you mess with his game, like we tried to joke around. Elaine, she was very funny. So we're going to do this thing that we're all going to meow on cue. When Jeff was asking somebody a question, somebody would answer the question, then we'd all go meow. So we did this in the interview thinking this is going to be hilarious. It never saw the light of day. That's not the way it works. He didn't even address that we'd done it. He didn't laugh about it. It wasn't, he knew what he wanted. He did, like one time he yelled at me at tribal council because you're trying to, especially when there's a blind side going on, you're trying not to give up too much stuff, but he wants you to give up stuff.
Yeah, he does. And
I gave him kind of a canned answer at one point. He goes, Tom, all you're giving me is effing word. And he didn't use the word effing. He used the word, he yelled at me.
It's interesting. So, one of the things that being a spectator of Survivor and listening to you guys, the 30 something castaways we've had on to this point, I don't want to say he's giving clues in any way, but he's definitely in the game. He sees things and he wants answers, and he almost demands it for us, the viewers. Yeah. And it's so interesting. That's why I think tribal councils have evolved to the point where you don't want to miss tribal council because there's a lot of information, right? And a lot of strategies, and it shapes the game. It's really very interesting now.
Right. So he's never around when we're talking like a camper and like that. We only see him at the challenges in the tribal council. So, but obviously the other producers there and the camera people. So they're clearly telling him, okay, here's who's getting voted off now, right? Because he really does. He's pretty good about not giving it away, but I mean, he really focuses on a certain people, either the decision makers who's making the decision about the vote, or who actually is getting voted off. Like, I remember with Chelsea, you talked about, the blind sides with her, knowing that she was the target of a blind side, and she had no clue, right? She obviously had an idol in her pocket and everything. So, so he definitely is, man, but like I said, like he knows, after all these years, he knows what he wants. Like even in the process of selecting people, they have all kinds of psychological tests they do on you. And I think part of it is to figure out, okay, can you handle it or not? But it's also, I think, okay, who's going to mesh? Like, they know, here's the profiles that we've had in the past. Here's how they butted heads or they work together. So I think, there's certain, they've got certain people they want on the show, certain types of people they want on the show. But he's all business. I mean, he's fun. I mean, he's a great guy and everything. After we were done, we had a little meeting with all the producers before we went to Australia, and he was there. We were having a few beers and laughing. The one guy, it's awfully, he always misses, I forget his name, but the head producer, I can't remember his name now. Funny guy. Like he's really good with the practical jokes. Like when we had our casting meetings, then we had the first one with Jeff, and then the second, he was at that meeting. The lead producer was there. Then we actually had a meeting afterwards with all the producers, and he handed me a beer. These guys were sitting around drinking beer and eating pizza. And he handed me a beer that was open. He says, "Oh, I hope I didn't insult you by giving you an open beer," because I told him I had broken some of my teeth by opening beer bottles when I was younger. So I'm thinking like, why are you not insulting me and giving me a beer? He told me I love it. And he goes, right. And he starts laughing. He says, "Oh, I thought you wanted to open it with your teeth." And he actually, Jason was a really strategic player, right? Like really studied the game, him and Molly. Mm-hmm. So they talked about the game all the time in Australia to the point where I had like one time we were in the bus going someplace, and I said to the bus driver, I said, "Busty, have you got a gun?" And he goes, "Well, no, but why do you want a gun?" He said, "Because I want to shoot myself." But when we were at the meeting, after we were done, we're all sitting around having beers, and Jason was there. And this producer, God, it's awful. I don't remember his name, but he was toying with Jason. Like he was saying that Jason got blindsided, and he didn't really get blindsided. But it was like, so we got on the boat afterwards. Jason was devastated, that this guy, I said, "He's joking with you." He goes, no, he was serious and everything. So, he knew, because again, they've done this so many times. He knew what he was doing. It was pretty funny.
Oh, that is funny. We are talking to Tom Laidlaw. Yes. The guy that played at the Rangers and the Kings. Yes. The agent. Yes. The motivational speaker. I mean, yes. From True Grit Life. I mean, all the things he's got going on, but also Survivor, season 39. And by the way, I think there's probably less people that played on Survivor than played in the NHL. I'm positive of that.
They actually, Dan made a little speech that we all laughed at the start of the show where he told up it was like 600 people or whatever played, or 500 or 600 or something. So
yeah. That's really
Yeah, that thought was pretty cool too. And it's one of those deals that, man, you're doing something that not many people have ever done. So it was.
How about this stat? You probably know this. You are the first native Canadian to appear on Survivor, which is pretty cool. People say that Gleason, he lived in Canada, but he wasn't there. And then Tom Herzog, he has Canadian citizenship, but he's a citizen of the United States.
Right.
And that's but you are the first. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Sorry, it was. I didn't really think about it at first. I knew I was the first one, but then I represented Canada really, and really showed the fans that contacted me after were like, the Canadians wanted me to win. That was a Canadian, and it was really, it was good too. Like again, with all the motivational speaking, really. So when you're raised in Canada, especially on like a farm like I was, we had a dairy farm, and being a hockey player, you're raised to be like we talked about Dan before. You're a gentleman, you're polite, you're respectful, but at the same time, you're hard. Like you're taught when you play to win, you respect the coaches, teammates, parents, everybody. But you're paid to win, you break somebody's arm to win, right? Yep. And so that's really kind of the attitude I wanted to have going out the show, that I was going to. And Jeff talked about this too in interviews. I'm kind of happy that he saw that my life is about treating people with respect. But when it comes time to win something, I play to win, and that's what I wanted to do as Survivor. And that was even when I got voted off the show. I remember thinking, okay, it's myself or Dean or Chelsea are going off, and just be a crack with the other 5 people. So I said to myself, you know what? I started thinking, am I happy with the way I played? And it really was. Like, even when my name got called, I said, you know what? I wouldn't change a thing. And they asked me that in an interview after. I was really happy with the way I played the game. So
you should have been. You played it right. I'm probably played it too well. You were competitive. Yeah. The thing, you were one of the older guys on the show, and you just were kicking butt, talking about laying it all out when you're between the lines. That's what you were doing. I have to tell you this. We sent out those social media announcements, and we put a little bit of bio in it and saying where you're from and all that stuff. I have to tell you this because more than one person sent back. Could you ask him if he knows Robert Herjavec and Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank? they're both Canadians. Like, Tom, you're supposed to know everyone in Canada. Yeah. We had at least 3 or 4 people write that back. Does he know those guys? I'm like, yeah, well, I want to ask about Gretzky. Who else are we going to ask about? Anyway, I want to ask you something about the Amazing Race. There's a rumor out there that you were asked to compete in the Amazing Race, but you couldn't pull they couldn't pull a team of players again. Tell us about that. Well,
so Jerry Bruckheimer, a huge hockey fan. Actually, he's part owner of the new Seattle Kraken team. So I can't remember. He either owns a piece of Amazing Race, Big Brother, Survivor. There's some connection there. So he came to the NHL and asked if we could find. It wasn't just for me. They'd get a couple of former players, alumni guys that played together, that were friends, that could go on the show. I got in trouble with some of my ex-teammates when I said this, but so we looked around. First of all, they had to have a Canadian or U.S. passport to do it, which I had become a U.S. citizen. And secondly, they had to be in decent shape. So when I was interviewed about this subject, I said, well, none of the guys I played with are in good enough shape to go on the show. So the other guys heard about that and they weren't too happy. But so yeah, that's how it all really started. That was accurate. I reached out to some other guys that I kind of knew a little bit that I didn't play, thinking they would fit the category, but ultimately did get it all pulled together. And then a guy that was working with me and helping with some marketing stuff knew one of the somebody else that had been on the Survivor, and so we got in touch with the casting director and we took it from there.
Got it. I had Bates Battaglia on the show, and he won season 22, 21 or 22, guys. I don't remember which. It was one of those. Him and Anthony, his brother Anthony, went.
I didn't realize that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they won. I mean, it was so funny talking to him about it, because he was like, it's so. He's like, I didn't expect it to be as physically. I mean, he was in good shape, and he is, and his brother is too. But he was like, working 5 continents, 13 countries. And you're running to travel agents, and it's no joke. And he goes, like, the pit stops, it's like, you sleep real quick. We didn't eat. He lost 13 pounds. And he said, I didn't need to lose 13 pounds. You know what I mean? Wow. It was amazing. Wow. He said the physical and the emotional. I mean, the thing was, you got to be, he said his one tip, I think, was make sure you read everything twice, because when it says, veer right here and you don't, and you run straight, you're dead. Right. So it's like, you got to read everything twice.
It's funny you talk about the physical part too. I'm in great shape. So I really wanted to kind of tone it down a little bit, and I had the debate, do I tell them that I was a hockey player or not? And I thought, I've got scars all over me and everything. I can't really tell them I'm an accountant or something, but I remember the first challenge, we had to go through the obstacle course, and there was that wall we had to get up, and 25 feet high. And so again, it's the first challenge. I'm trying to practice my breathing, slow myself down. I get to the base of the wall, and I'm going to be the guy at the bottom. And the adrenaline just came over me. And I hear it. I'm the 6-year-old. I got against the wall, held him up like this. I said, "Get up my back." I'm yelling at everybody, And then at one point, Charisma was trying to be really nice. And she's like, there was 3 guys, Aaron, Ronnie, and then Dean were all on my back. And she's thinking I'm going to collapse or whatever. So she's trying to brace me. And I used some choice language too, and I shouldn't have done it. But I said, "No, get away from me. Get up the wall. Get up the wall." And I was still fired up. And after it was done, I heard, "Oh, Tom, settle down."
That spirit is coming out of you. That
oh God, yeah, it just
and competitiveness.
Yeah.
Didn't you lose 20-something pounds while out there?
27 pounds, yeah. So my diet is really important. I do the intermittent fasting and all that kinds of stuff now, and so I felt like if I want to go out there and win, so I'm going to be out there for 39 days. I better pack some extra pounds on. I've seen a lot of people kind of thin out before they go on the show, which makes no sense to me. So my normal weight's around 235. I went out there. I put on more than 10 pounds. I was probably closer to 250. And then because they weigh you before you go out there, and I was around 250, and I was 223 when I got off the show. So,
Tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the intermittent fasting. I'm being selfish here, so bear with me, folks. I started that it was 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to know what your schedule is from an 8-hour standpoint. What's the best? What is your experience in it?
So mine is I stop eating at 8:00 at night, and then I don't eat again until noon. So basically,
that's what mine is, noon to 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just skipping breakfast really. But the big thing for me, I used to believe when I heard about intermittent fasting that it was just really about burning fat after that first 12-hour window. But that's the great thing about the pandemic. I've had the chance to really study it a lot more. And there's all these other health benefits, like it regenerates cells in your brain, other parts of your body, creates more human growth hormone naturally, kind of cuts back in the aging process. So that first 12 hours that you fast, you're burning up all the food and calories in your body. And then after that, and this is really the amazing thing, like your body has these amazing powers to heal. But as long as we have calories in the body and it's concentrating and burning those calories. Once the calories are gone, that's when all these other great things happen, all the regeneration of cells, and like I said, the human growth hormone and burning of fat. And for me, I do it every day, and you just it's like anything else, you just get used to. I mean, sometimes at noon you get a little, before noon you get a little hungry, but it's like anything else. If you stay busy, it's not a big deal. You just get used to it. But I think it's fantastic.
Are you eating multiple meals during the day? Are you eating just a lunch and a dinner and a snack, maybe? How you doing?
During the 8 hours that you're eating, I find, obviously you're hungry when you eat your first one. So I make a smoothie. So I put bananas, almond milk, avocado, protein powder, and these power greens, which is char, kale, and spinach all together. Put that in the blender, and that's my first meal of the day. And then probably maybe it depends what's going on, an hour or two after that, then I'll eat what would be my lunch. And then I'll just eat a dinner at normal time. So again, I chart in all my calories on an app and everything. So normally I bring in like around 35 to 4,000 calories every day because I burn about 1,000 calories with my workouts. So, I try there's a few things. You try to make sure you eat enough closer to that 8 o'clock cutoff period so that you're not really hungry the next day. And I do my workouts like at 4:30 in the morning too. So there's a lot of again, everybody's different, and I don't want to say to people, this is the way I do it. You need to get up, I get up every day at 3:30. I don't think some people wouldn't even want to do that.
Me.
So it's, yeah, I don't know if there's a great video out there. This Admiral William McRaven, he's a Navy SEAL admiral. He made a speech in front of the University of Texas several years ago. And he's got up there, he's got the white uniform on and everything. And you think it's just going to be all fire and brimstone, but he starts talking about the 10 things he learned in Navy SEAL training. And the first one was the importance of making your bed perfect in the morning. And at first you're kind of like it's kind of
stupid. Setting a goal?
Yeah, well, setting a goal, doing the little. So his saying is, if you can't do the little things right, you won't be able to do the big things right.
Yeah.
And you're doing it for yourself. Nobody else sees it. It's one of those things that you're not putting on a show for anybody else. And it really, that kind of, at first, it seems strange to think about it now, but that's really kind of mantra for my life with everything I do. So when I go out for a walk in the morning, I call it a march. The idea is you get the most out of each stride. So I'm always when I'm talking to people, it's always about getting the most out of your life. You don't have to be like, for me, I tell little kids too, I was never one of the best players on any team I ever played on. I wasn't the smartest guy in the room when I was an agent. But I succeeded at everything because I just showed up all the time. And I really came from, living on the farm with my father and grandfather. They had the dairy farm, and they had to get up every day and milk the cows. And, at first when you're a kid, you don't realize how kind of glorious that is. Then as you get older, you realize, wow, every day, 365 days a year, twice a day, you're milking those cows for years. Yeah. And just, this dedicated, and doing the things right. We couldn't afford to buy new tractors and stuff all the time. So they had to maintain all the equipment. So I'd want to jump on the tractor and go. Well, an hour later, they're still greasing all the fittings, changing the oil, because they're not taking that tractor out of the barn until it's fixed up properly and ready to go. So
it's so interesting you say that. My father was, excuse me, a fireman in the New York City metropolitan area for many years, and became a chief and all that stuff. And he had moonlighting like most firemen do. He had, he had a lawn service and stuff. And when I was really young, I would always wonder, why is he working 2 jobs and, he's got a day off. Why is he not just, Saturday and he would be 3 on, 3 off, 3 nights, 3, And as I got a little bit older, maybe, middle school or whatever, I asked him and I said, Dad, why do you work? You can be spending time, doing other things you want to do. Why are you working? And he said, because my job is to provide for you guys. And I also want to set a good example about work ethic. And I kind of blew that off. And then it stuck with me. And I would ask him, and if I remember vividly going back to him and saying, what do you mean by work ethic? And I was probably 9 or 10 years old. Right. And he said, it's the effort you put into doing something. And I only want to do it 100%. And so when I commit to it, I have to get it done. And I never forgot that. And I strive to be what he is from a work ethic standpoint. I don't have all of that. I'm probably 75%. If I'm probably cheating myself a couple of points there too, but it's just, he had 3 kids, and we were all like my kids and everybody's kids. Usually they're involved in tons of things. And we're a middle-class family. We weren't, any kind of money, and he had to pay for, both my brother and I played hockey and through the ranks, and that's not a cheap sport. And it was just, those life lessons you learn from the parents, and you.
Yeah. It isn't funny too how you're the same way when you're young like that. You don't get it right until later on in life. Then you look back and get that guy. My father was a big man. He's like 6'4". I'm like 6'2". My grandfather was smaller. And, I was fighting all the time, playing hockey, thinking that's the way a man's supposed to be, tough like that. My father and grandfather were not like that. It was just work, take care of their families. Like, sounds like your father. Yeah. So I used to look at them and they were kind of soft guys, right? Like, come on, you're supposed to be fighting here, And then later on, like now I look at them, excuse me, and I go, man, they're men. Like they were just like I said, like little things, like they would, my father, so we had to, bale hay and everything like that. And, I'd bale hay and I'd throw as many, throw the bales all over the place, and the loads falling all over. And my father, every time he loaded that wagon, it was loaded exactly the same way with exactly the same number of bales on it. And I remember thinking like, oh God, I'd be driving the tractor and he'd be loading. And I said, it's hot. And then, can we just get out of here? Let's go have a cold beer or something. And he'd load that thing up and just keep going and keep going. And now I look back and go, wow, that was like, like to do it every time, like your father the same way, right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. And folks, I promise we'll get back to Survivor. I'll give you a quick example that reminded me of my father's work ethic. I went with him, as I did often, to cut some of these. He ended up taking his business from residential, his side business, his side hustle, as we say today. He went from residential to corporate. He was trying to increase the business, and he got different crews eventually, and really became successful from landscaping as he had his career in the fire department. And I was with him one Saturday, and we had to go in this small group of residential clients, maybe 25 or 30, that he kept because they were elderly, and he didn't want to just disappear on them because he took his business elsewhere. So we were going around to all these places, and I remember it got to be like 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere, late in the afternoon on a Saturday. And we started real early because, like you, he was the guy who was up at 5 o'clock, and with a ton of energy. And I'm like, oh my God. And I remember it was starting to rain, and we had a couple more places to go, and we had cut the lawn. And I forgot the entire back parking lot to blow off of this person's area because the driveway ran them back. And he said, "Did you blow off in the back?" And I said, "Oh, no, I didn't." And he said, "Well, let's go. We got to get it. You got to get it done." And I said, "Dad, it's starting to rain. And what's the difference?" And he's like, "And nobody's here." Like, I'm telling him, nobody's going to know if we blow off or not. And he's like, "You'll know and I'll know. That's just not how you do things."
Oh, that's cool. I love that.
And I'm thinking to myself, you got to be kidding me. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you know, like at that time, I'm thinking, you're wrong. I know you're wrong. And then, like you said, as you mature, oh man, that's such a life lesson. You don't appreciate it back then.
Yeah.
But
It's
anyway,
incredible when you live like that. I think, some people think, well, nobody's going to see it, but your father's right. I mean, to me, what it does too, it's like it gives you, when you live like that, it's like now you've got a license to feel good about yourself, right? Because you know you're doing it the right way.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's just who he was, though, right? He's not making something up to give me a life lesson. That's who he was. It's just, and I wish I couldn't be that way. Or that back then. But anyway, let's go to a question from, where did I leave off? Carol from Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania. She wanted to know, what was your favorite or least favorite challenge while out in Fiji?
Oh, easily the least favorite challenge was the sand crawl.
Yeah.
Man, it was like 100 degrees. I still got scars on my legs. So they tie us together, tie your legs together, tie your hands behind your back. And then I was tied to Janet. And that's really the first time I met Janet. We just had the tribe swap. So we had the two oldest people. And poor Janet, she was a wonderful person too. She couldn't move. So I'm trying to drag her and she's apologizing. We got her face buried in the sand. And I hate Krishna is a really nice person, but we clearly had our, on the show, we were going in different directions all the time.
Yep.
But in that challenge, it was our first challenge with the new people. And I felt bad because she wasn't good at puzzles. And I knew she wasn't. Again, these people don't really know her yet, the new people. So I should have stepped up more and said, just, put her up on the puzzle because she can't move. Like physically, she couldn't move. So I finally, Janet moved herself too, but I dragged her. We got through, and then it was Christmas turn later, and she couldn't move at all. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's get this straight. I got sand everywhere, every opening in my body. And in fact, it's a great picture I have of my face buried in the sand. And now we're not even going to win the challenge against all this. So that was the toughest one. I'm thinking I gotta say the one we won, obviously, I'm going to look back. Now, you know what, though? Even though we lost it, the first challenge going up the wall, that was a blast. Like, that was really, again, we worked well as a team. Like, we didn't get to the wall until after the other team got there, but we figured it out pretty good. Aaron and Ronnie were good team guys. So was Dean. And we got all the girls up the wall and got going. So I think that was probably the favorite one.
That's cool. Tell us a little bit about strategy there. I mean, that's such a key part. You talk about the physical thing. You mentioned, some of the people that have been on the show, and many people. I mean, Sandra's one of them, right? She's not the most physical person. There's been others that are, not so physical and win. At the same time, there's been guys that are, as athletic as can be, and they're not getting it done. So there's that balance. Tell us about the strategy compared to the physicalness, and how does that manifest itself out on the island?
Right. So there's a few things, right? I mean, physically, around camp even, right? You want to be carrying the firewood. You want to be a big part of, building the fire. I think we were the first ones to ever build a roof over top of our fire, which helped us when it was raining. So that was the old farm boy, Tom Laidlaw, that came up with that idea. But I so you do want to be contributing in those ways, like the dishes, you want to, like people would take them down to the ocean and clean them and all that kinds of stuff. So you want to participate. And then challenges, you don't want to be the reason why your tribe loses a challenge, right? I mean, so it's either you better be good at puzzles or you better be good at the other parts of the game. So that physically, that's the strategy there. But, you're constantly, like, to me, like, there's many different ways to play the game. Like, I wanted to be that loyal guy. I wanted to be the one that formed the alliance, and Elaine and I formed an alliance, and then I fought for her to make sure she didn't get voted out. We had the blind side on Ronnie, got him voted out instead. So that really kind of, now she knew she could trust me, right? And then my feeling was that, okay, she's got that friends with the girls, then I'm tied in with all the girls then too. So that was really my strategy, was to be the loyal guy. And I wanted to be the guy that people really, I know it's strange in the game of Survivor, but I want to be the guy that people really trusted. What I said is what I was going to do. And then it ended up helping me too, because when we blindsided Vince, we wanted to make it look like we were going after Karishma, which wasn't hard because I wanted to get Karishma voted off because she was hurting us in challenges and everything. Mm-hmm. So it was an easy sell then. Like the guys were going to write Karishma's name down, and then the girls were going to write Vince's name down.
Right.
So it was easy for me to be for real when I was going out after Krishna and saying she should go out. Ultimately, it hurt me, and this is the part, like sometimes when people try to strategize too much, you yeah, to me, it's kind of like burning a lot of energy. It's not necessary because in the end of the day, my strategy was to be loyal. That was also the reason they voted me off because they knew I was loyal to the other people that had gone over the other way on the tribe swap. So, but like, I do think like Ronnie got voted off first. Good player. Molly second. He's a good player. Jason, a good player. What's her name? Chelsea was a really good player. She got voted off with an island in her pocket. So it's just, it's the luck of the draw sometimes, and the people that win it, they certainly played a good game, but Dean kind of laughs at himself because he was the one on the beach there that said, announced in front of everybody that we're just going to split the vote when Vince gets back. And we're all standing there. So obviously we were targeting somebody there,
right.
So he laughs about himself. So
I was speaking to Stephanie Kendrick, who's played on the show a few seasons. And I asked her the same question about strategy. And she said what she learned over I think she's been on 3 different seasons. She said that she learned that get your alliance that you're going to have, but don't be the spokesperson from your alliance. Like, don't be the person. You could feed your spokesperson, the person, the information that you want to, go out and broadcast to the rest of the people. But don't be that guy or girl because that ultimately you can be a target, right? And
that's one of the strategies, like even in challenges like that too. Don't be you don't want to be the one that jumps up and says, I'll do it. Because then if you don't get that, and that's kind of why we were able to jump on Krishma, because she said she could do the puzzles. And like the first one, we were ahead when we got up to the top there and started to do the puzzles. She actually yelled, okay, everybody listen to me. So we were all thinking, okay, she knows what she's doing in puzzles. That's the worst defeat ever, like Jeff was saying in the first challenge. So you got to be careful not to be that demanding guy. I remember when Ben, the Marine, first time he played, he had a real strong alliance, but then he started to kind of turn into like a dictator.
Yes.
And they said that worked against them.
Yeah.
So I remembered that. I thought, okay, you're preparing for the challenge. Jeff shows you what it is. And then you get together for a few seconds and then you decide, okay, who's going to do what in the challenge? And they turned to me actually because I was the older guy and I'd been the captain of the teams and said, okay, Tom's going to be doing the talking here. Well, ultimately they were just so wound up during this short window of time. They're all talking, right? And I felt like I was just going to yell, like, shut up. This is what we're doing. But you can't, right? Because then now you're putting a target up. So that was good advice by her. It's just that's like I said, you can have a different strategy. And it's so much of the luck of the draw. Like when Chelsea got voted off, it was just like, and Elaine said it in the tribal council that it was just like Plan Z. She was Plan Z. Could have been me. And that's the way the show goes.
Gio from Santa Monica, California wants to know, what the heck does he want to know? You guys might think my question just disappeared. Let's move on from him. Any misconceptions from Survivor? Anything you thought when you're done competing that, oh, hold on. His question's back. Thanks, guys. Little technical difficulties.
No problem.
Gio's question was, anything you do differently after looking back on your time on the island?
Not much. I think the only thing I would do different, once we had the tribe swap and it was clear that we were down on the numbers, I probably would have done more. Like, Nora had come to me and made it clear she wanted to get Jamal voted off.
Yep.
I would have done a better job of going to Jamal and say, listen, like being more honest with him and saying, okay, listen, obviously I had an alliance with these people over on the other tribe. I don't want to be that dishonest guy and I don't want to be flip-flopping all over the place, but clearly, I need to do something here. You want to work together and get Nora out. And now my alliance will be with you guys. So I said, I know that's kind of contradictory to who I would have done more of that to plant that seed. But you know what, though, even then, so Janet, Jamal, and Jack were really close. Kelly was somewhat on the outside of that one, and Nora was clearly on the outside of that.
Yep.
But they did a real good job of not showing that in front of us three, at least with me. Like I just felt like those 5 people were together. So I kind of took the attitude, it's going to be Karishma. And I didn't work hard enough to kind of come up with another plan for somebody like Jamal and get Nora voted off. But then, again, that kind of goes contrary to how I was playing the game too, though, right? Because now if I'm saying I'm playing the loyal game and then I don't be loyal, then he's going to be looking at me like he can't trust me either. So,
Last 2 questions from me, and I'll let you go. I really appreciate your time today. We touched on this with Amazing Race, but we had a lot of questions about any desires to go on any of these other reality shows that are competitive.
Yeah, Amazing Race would be fun.
I think you're perfect for it.
Yeah, and we've talked. Actually, Elaine and I have talked about going on that show together.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I do. I'll tell you, I would definitely go back and play Survivor again. I'd love to. It's just, and the second time around, like, you just prepared for so much more. Like, I didn't know, like, the days before you went out and played, how many days that was, and then and just when something's unknown, maybe you're tiptoeing through a little bit more. So now go out and play the game. But again, like, I played the same way, but it was a blast. I'm even thinking about, raining in the middle of the night, sleeping in the dirt. Like, man, I still, like, that was a blast. It sounds weird now, but I love doing that.
Well, that was my second question was, would you be interested in going back and playing Survivor again? And so we're going to have to start a little campaign.
Actually, I doubt if I will. Well, you never know. But I saw a stat someplace too that the returning players didn't necessarily draw more viewers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I guess it probably depends on who those players are.
Yeah.
Like, I think if somebody like Elaine went back on, I think people would want to see her.
Yeah, I would think they want to see people like, I don't know why they wouldn't want to see you.
Yeah, it was blast. It really would be fun. Like, I do think back about all the feelings that, like, I was really surprised at myself how much I enjoyed actually playing the game. Actually, Jeff, at one point before one challenge, said to me, he says, "Oh, Tom, I'm sorry, this is kind of tough, isn't it?" He says, and I said, "No, are you kidding me? This is unbelievable. I love this stuff."
That's awesome. Tom, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking us through the journey. It's been awesome. Thanks.
My pleasure. Good talking to you. We got to get back on it. We'll talk hockey. We'll talk a little bit of motivational speaking.
I would love to do it. I'll stay tuned. Thanks, Tom.